The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson was directed by Daniel Farrands, the guy who brought us The Haunting of Sharon Tate last year. Before that, he made the Amityville Murders, and before that, he made some well-received horror documentaries like Never Sleep Again, the Nightmare on Elm Street doc. This film stars Mena Suvari as Nicole Brown Simpson, and it follows her during her final days before her tragic death in 1994. I'm going to do something I've never done with this review because this movie's very special. I'm going to give The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson an F. I'm getting that out of the way right off the bat because this is honestly one of the most offensive movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I think this is a gigantic mistake of a film following another gigantic mistake of a film. And Daniel Farrands is a filmmaker that seems to be carving out a very strange subgenre for himself of gross, trashy exploitation in which he takes real-life crimes, in this case, two famous people who were murdered, and makes movies about them back to back. Both of them incredibly cheap, slopped together with newsreel footage to pad the runtime, and drone footage that's messy and wobbly, and performances that feel like first-take performances of a student film.
I'm sorry to bother you. Is Candace home?
No, I'm her brother.
So tell me how you're doing. And I don't want to hear all this I'm fine stuff. I want to know how you're really doing.
Hi. In case we forgot, the party's out here.
Even though Amityville Murders was a film that was also based around a true crime, I give him a pass on that because there have been so many Amityville movies at this point, it's almost become part of pop culture, and even though it was a real-life crime that took place, it's not like he was the first person to make such a trashy movie about it or something. However, his last two films are inexcusable. I find them grossly inappropriate. And this film is somehow even worse than The Haunting of Sharon Tate. I don't know how he did it, but let's talk about it. First off, it's written by Michael Artur. This is, no surprise, his very first script. This just so happens to be the production coordinator for The Haunting of Sharon Tate. I find that rather interesting, so I'm assuming that at some point during that production, they spoke about making more like this, and he just wrote one. And because of how quick this one came out just 1 year later, it really just seems like they somehow were given permission by somebody. They had money from something, and they threw some shit together. And even though this movie is just over 80 minutes, it includes at least 10 minutes of newsreel footage at the beginning and at the end in some kind of haphazard attempt to make their film feature length. I'm going to warn you that from here on out, this is going to contain spoilers. Obviously, I don't recommend that any of you see this movie or support it. I don't think it deserves anyone's money, despite the fact that I paid for a rental of it. It makes me feel gross, even knowing that I did that. This is going to contain spoilers from now on. Let's talk about some of the movies that this rips off. Nicole Brown Simpson has a nightmare in which she's ravaged by some unseen ghost. This thing lifts her onto the wall and then eventually onto the ceiling. This is a blatant ripoff of one of the most iconic scenes of A Nightmare on Elm Street, made even more bothersome knowing that this filmmaker made Never Sleep Again, the Nightmare on Elm Street documentary. It's obvious that he was trying to pay homage to something, but there's no point to it. Your film is a garbage fire of trash. Why would you rip off one of the most iconic scenes in horror as if you're somehow treating it well? Like, you're not paying homage to something when you shot for shot recreate it in your movie where your film doesn't even remotely deserve that level of greatness. It's fucking pathetic. Mena Suvari and Nick Stahl as the supposed cross-country killer that has in some conspiracy theories been linked to OJ's trial. Both of these actors do the best they can with what they have. Taryn Manning is wearing one of the worst wigs I've ever seen in a film. She's very bad in the movie, as is Agnes Bruckner as Kris Kardashian. There's no attempt to build character throughout this movie, and if they were, they didn't understand what they were doing with the characters. In many scenes, she discusses her kids and how she feels bad that they're constantly subjected to how abusive O.J. Simpson is. But you rarely see these kids. They're barely on screen in the entire film. They're only there for very small moments. Why is that? Probably because it's difficult to work with kids. They can't work the same hours. There's child labor laws. And you can feel that in every single scene that they're in because they look directionless, like they're just in the frame wandering around, wondering when they can go home. There's these pointlessly long and drawn-out therapy scenes where Nicole Brown Simpson tells her therapist everything she's concerned about, how OJ was abusive and how she hated living with him. And this scene contains, I think, one of the most troubling statements from her from the entire script.
My friends used to say that he molded me into what he wanted me to become so that no other man could ever take his place. And to be completely honest, I miss the sex sometimes.
Jesus Christ. There's a lot of insights that this script gives us into Nicole Brown Simpson's apparent psyche during the final days of her life. Moments throughout the movie where she gets to hit us over the head with a fucking mallet of foreshadowing when she talks to cops and she's like,
You know, after he's killed me, you people can live with the fact that you never did a thing about it.
There's not an ounce of subtlety throughout this entire film.
I'm worried he's going to kill me one day and he's going to get away with it.
Oh my God, Nicole. What are you talking about?
Even more disturbing, there's moments where the film seems to suggest that she brought her murder on herself by inviting this guy into her house who ended up being the cross-country killer, sleeping with him, allowing him into her life. That it's her fault that she was killed. And what will likely piss a lot of people off, the movie seems to suggest that OJ had very little to do with the actual crime. When we see the crime, which by the way, is depicted in gruesome, very detailed, bloody and gory sequences. He treats their deaths like it's a slasher movie. We see them stabbed over and over again with a lot of blood, slow motion, neck slitting, and everything. I was absolutely fucking appalled. He even shows the crime scene photos of their dead bodies. What's worse, the theory that they're positing about who may or may not have killed them, the film breaks its own rules. The scene of their deaths shows one man in a ski mask, killing them. Then we get our great montage of newsreel footage to elongate the runtime because you gotta get feature length. And in that, we see the real O.J. Simpson talking about how he was there during the murders, but probably blacked out, and that somebody else who was with him actually did the deed.
As things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell. And I remember I grabbed a knife. I do remember that portion, taking a knife from Charlie. After that, I don't remember, except I'm standing there and there's all kind of blood and stuff around.
So we see in this fucking movie a newsreel of O.J. Simpson saying he was fucking there. But in the dramatic depiction of the deaths, it's just one guy. This movie can't even follow its own fucking rules. This is embarrassing. Honestly, this is really one of the worst movies that I've seen. In regards to true crime exploitation, it's bottom of the barrel. It has nothing interesting to say. It does not know how to build character. It's a movie that actually has no real idea of just how offensive it is. There's even a scene where they talk about the former Bruce Jenner, and this is what they have to say.
Oh, and Bruce sends his love. He couldn't make it. He's hosting a fundraiser in West Hollywood with Heidi Krieger.
What a drag.
You can't make this shit up, people. You really can't. I have no idea how this film was financed. I don't know how these actors got involved with it. This is Nick Stahl's first movie in like 6 years. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is that Daniel Farrands should no longer make films like this.
What I think he should do is take him home, grab onto those hard buns, and go to town. Oh, hello.
Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Obviously, don't watch this movie or support it. I think it's really, really bad. Somehow worse than Haunting of Sharon Tate. I don't know how that's possible, but it is. You guys are the best. Thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.